Good evening, everyone. Happy Wednesday. We are in, officially in the season of summer and wrapping up. This year is flying. We not even finna try to figure this out. It is flying. So, if you caught last week's episode, I would love to hear your thoughts. It was a hot one. If you've not seen it, go back, grab the YouTube link in the comments. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it if you can't catch us live on Wednesday evenings. But it was a good one. And we're not pulling any punches this week either. We got feisty this summer, y'all. Must be the summer heat or something. We getting feisty. So today we're talking about, as business owners, if you're here, chances are you show up on social media. If you're not, Dayna has said it before, if you're a business owner and you have the capability to be online and you're not online, you are missing a huge chunk of market, business, money, like all the things. But if you're showing up, the questions that are coming up in our little circle here that we talked about is the hot button topics, right? Do we talk about them? Do we not talk about them? Do you feel comfortable sharing them? It just came to me, like, as a business professional, do you think you should have a personal page where you talk about personal things and a business profile where you keep everything strictly business? Where does everybody fall? How do we feel about that, and how do we navigate it? Because we are in a cancel culture, y'all. I mean, I've seen lots of podcast episodes about that specific topic and how everybody is feeling about this era of just, we cancel everything we don't like. So we're going to talk about, to speak on it or to not speak on it. That is the question. Drop it in the comments. Do you talk about all the things? So we're going to get into it, ladies. Do you speak on it or do you not speak on it? What are your thoughts? Let's get into it.
Yeah, so you would never point at me like that. Why ain't nobody tell me we was wearing hoops? Ain't nobody tell me grab your hoops. Yeah, I think this is important because as a business owner, obviously you want to make money. You want to be liked, you want to attract the right people, and you want to stand for something. And I feel like we are in an age where more and more people are buying through values. So it's important to them to know where you stand. And unfortunately, I think we get to this place where we like to be lukewarm because we're so afraid to repel or attract certain people. And then we think that this is actually going to keep us somewhere in the middle, and we'll have more people come to us. I think it's the opposite. I think when you say super, super neutral, what happens is people are like, well, I don't know what their values are. I don't really know them as a person, personal brand, personal anything. So I don't really know if I connect with them or not. Right. So then they do nothing. So because you have not taken strong stances on certain things, they do absolutely nothing. They might be entertained every once in a while by what you do, but they're not going to take action to buy things. They're not going to take action to work with you because they're not super clear on where you stand on things that might be important to them. Whereas I actually challenge you to purposely get unfollowed. Like, I want you to say and do some things that make it clear on where you stand. Now, with that said, I do not believe that like your business should be the platform to express all of your opinions and all of the things, because does it make sense to your business and brand? Now, if you are in media, right, or you're in news or something that it's like, this is what you talk about, is controversial things. You share what's going on and what's your opinion on it. That's a completely different thing, right? But if you're a small business that is making guitars, there's a guitar in front of me, so that's why I'm thinking about it. And you're talking about something that has nothing to do with the values of what you do, people get lost or they get confused, right? So I do think that there's this levels that we can find in between and still be happy with what we're presenting out there versus also being able to appease some of the people that are wanting to work with us. But I do feel like be careful not to be so cautious that you don't reject people, like have people rejected from your message. You want those people. You want to know that this person is not going to vibe with you, because they wouldn't maintain as a good customer anyways at some point. Because as you start working with somebody, you realize like, oh, whoa, we're not aligned in these ways, right? So I do think that's super important, that you're very clear on certain things, but kind of find that in between, where you're still true to your business and how you're showing up.
Hey y'all, for me, I can only speak to what I offer. I have 5 things that I show up, the way that I show up. And you'll know it if you follow me on anything social media. You know what I stand for. But I can't be picky because where I'm at, it's only like 500 of us. So if we don't align, we gonna align because I need your coins, okay? I'm not picky. Whatever you believe in, you leave that in the car. When we come and meet, we gonna align right then and there. Because when you get back in your car, you're gonna be your own person. Because I am not in any way, shape, or form trying to change your values or change your beliefs. I just want your money because I'm a business owner and I'm just in business trying to make money. All money green. I don't care what you believe in. You can believe in the snake walking and talking. I don't care. Just as long as you got money that's green, okay? And I can spend it.
I think we talked about this before. As a recovering people pleaser, this was something that I struggled with, was like radical self-love in the way that I showed up in my business to be like, this is what I want to talk about. For me, there was a time, just to kind of give a little context, we were stationed overseas and my oldest son was playing basketball at the time, and we went to a tournament in Belgium, and some drama kicked off. And I've spent a lot of time, most of my childhood, being honest, growing up overseas. And so discrimination was not something that I'm a military brat. And so if you've ever been on a military base, like that's like a melting pot. It's like New York, right? Like there's so many different kinds of people that as a kid, while I understood and, was taught, the personal experience wasn't there. And so having our kids, we had a team that was mostly of Black and brown young men, and my husband was the coach alongside another Black man, and it popped off in a way that I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is basketball. Like, I've just never, as somebody who's played basketball, somebody who's been a part of a lot of team sports, for me, it was just like, what the heck? Like, when does this happen? Usually we can come together, do the thing, and then afterwards we talk about each other, right? Like, when does this come in? Now it's affecting our kids. And I remember I had just started kind of my business on social media. I just made the decision I was going to go on Instagram with my business. But I was like, I have to say this. Like, I have to, because I post all the games and kind of show the, the oils that I was using at games and helping moms, because I stress out at my kids' games, right? And I said, freak it. I'm getting on here and I'm just going to say it because this is not what we're going to do. But I did question, like, who am I going to offend by saying, this is how I feel? But we had the conversation before when we talked about our personal experiences that that's a part of who I am. I am a BIPOC. I'm a mixed race individual, and I have 2 Black sons, and it's like, this is how I feel passionately. In the same way with like women, I used to find myself saying things like, women, well, men too. I don't want to discredit you, and sometimes I do it here, but it's not that I don't got love for the fellas, and I don't want to see you thriving and in your wellness and in your self-care too. But I'm just not talking to you. And Dayna said it before. She'd heard, I don't know if it was either a training or a podcast, Dayna, that you should be so like radical about your passion and not in this negative way that people are like, nope, not for me, right? Are you showing up in that way? And I think, I started doing that, and it's not an offense. So this is where I feel like, if I'm not offending you, like if I do offend you, I want you to say, hey, Tameka, what you said was cutting up, and this is, what it did, and da, da, da. Like, teach me, because we're all going to make mistakes. But I think it's just like time and a place kind of thing, right? If I'm just telling you how I feel, and like Dayna said, this is not just a feeling or a thought, it does perfectly align with my business, I'm going to share it here, because if we don't vibe, like Dayna said, I'm not for you, and we're not going to be successful in whatever, whether it's a personal or a business relationship, if you don't know me. We've had the conversation before where, that had to change for me, because if you see me in the streets and I came on social media and I was talking like this, you would be like, what the heaven? Like, what happened? That's not her. Because that's, and I think we fall victim into that. So that leads me to my question of, do you ladies think that because of these things, like we have Pride Month, we have, Black Lives Matter, we have, there are so many things, Me Too movements, and I've seen some other things going on, but because of the cancel culture that we have, should you have a separate business and personal page? Because a lot of it is personal, right? It's our personal feelings that may have nothing to do with our business, right?
So I will start with saying, for me, the answer would be no. I have no reason to have a personal page and a business page. But is that a blank statement for everyone? No. The reason for me that's a no is because a lot of who I am my personal brand. And for me, I value intimate, close relationships that are one-to-one more so than a mass space. And that doesn't mean that they don't have place. But what I mean is I don't necessarily have friends online that I wouldn't actually get your phone number and have a conversation with you too. So I do have like a nice core people. Like I even think last year when I went to Young Living Convention, where like we follow each other, we support each other, we, do all of the things. And, I got their phone numbers and I'm like, I'm going to be at convention and I actually want to see you. I actually want to interact with you. Right. So I think for me, there's no need to separate it. But what I will say with that is I really, 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 really want people to honestly assess certain things. So we're told don't talk about religion. We're told don't talk about politics, right? We're told don't talk about some of these topics, right? And what I want to say is sometimes by not saying something, you're saying something, right? And you have to remember who your audience is. Who do you want to attract? And would it hurt them if you did not acknowledge that something was happening? And so, for instance, I'm just going to go a little bit into this. My relationship with a certain person changed slightly, not because because even myself, like during the whole Black Lives Matter situation and scenario or whatever, we had a conversation and her statement simply was she did not want to bring any attention to what was happening in the area that we lived in and in the country that we are residing in, because she felt that would offend and detract from some of her current clients and customers, and it would affect her business. And so she didn't feel the need to share about that, because for her personally, she didn't, it was the relationships that she had. That's what she was afraid of. And for me, what I stated to her is, you can pull out Black Lives Matter. You can pull out however you feel about these organizations. You can pull out all of the things. But the one thing I want you to think about is, that there's a group of people that are hurting right now. And that there's a group of people that are being affected right now. So if you take all the racial pieces out of this situation and I talk to you one-to-one about your view of your husband, maybe your children, right? What is the narrative that comes up for you? Is it still now I don't have an opinion or I don't have a side on this? Because it's not about taking sides. My only thing is, do you acknowledge that there is something terrible happening? There are people hurting, and are you empathizing with that? You don't even have to take a stand for an issue, just to simply say, there's a lull in energy right now. There's people that are hurt. And so I'm going to acknowledge that because, and now this is where for me it makes sense in my business because that's my values, right? My values are I help people feel good. If there's people in the whole country not feeling good, then I need to be like, probably talking about my latte today doesn't make sense, right? Probably jumping on a trampoline with my son just today doesn't make sense, right? And so to me, there's pieces again, and it's not like we're tapping around the subject. It's not that we're not acknowledging it, but all I'm saying is this is a human problem, right? This is humanity that's being affected. And so as a human of this country, of this place, we all should acknowledge that it's happening. And again, to me, in that situation, our relationship changed because I'm like, so you're just about this dollar, right? You're just about this dollar, and that's all. You are in a human relation business, but you don't actually care about humans. You just care about, am I getting paid? Am I making money at the end of the day? Same thing I will say, and again, that doesn't mean you need to talk about every single subject. That doesn't mean you need to talk about every single matter, but people should know who you are. People should know what your company stands for. And you're going to have a lot of angry people, and you're going to have a lot of people that align with that. But either way, I think it's important to have that space.
I am glad you said that because acknowledging that things are happening is what I don't do. Like here in my state, there are women that look like us 3 times more likely to die in childbirth. Babies are 3 times more likely to die while their parents are giving birth to them. And I don't speak about it enough because then I don't want to exclude this other population over here. Yes, I am passionate about that because people like me are dying, giving birth to babies. But just because I don't want to ruffle feathers, like Tameka says, she's a recovering people pleaser. I am too. I don't want to ruffle those feathers and say, well, I don't want people to feel like that I'm excluding them because I focus on this. And this is what my business is about. This is why I became a doula. This is why I talk about these things, but I don't say that enough. So I'm glad you say acknowledge that this is happening because yes, it is happening, but I don't say anything, and then people won't know. So that doesn't serve any value either. So yeah, I need to work on it. I apologize, y'all. I will work on it.
I think that Androna, you bring up probably a great point from a lot of people that have businesses online, and it's probably why some people do separate social and personal from their business. I mean, I don't. I have one page. Instagram is all the things, and Facebook is all the things. Because like Dayna, I talk to people. If I talk to you, no, I talk to people like we're friends. Like my tone is like, you're my homegirl and I'm directing you. And so a part of that means understanding maybe a little bit how I tick. Like Dayna said, it's your brand. So this is my brand. These are the things that I'm passionate about. Like last episode, you could see how passionate we are about the misconception that keeps being sold about network marketing. But to your point, Andrea, I think that's what stops people from speaking at all. It's like you have a matter, an actual factual matter. This is not an opinion of yours. This is one that you can go and pull up numbers and see the great disparity between, you know, women of color giving births and then, you know, those who are not. There are actual numbers, but it still gives you pause to post because you don't want to exclude those women who do die in childbirth that are not of color. And I think that's so many people's standpoint, right? Like, I don't want to tell you that I don't agree with what you're doing, or I don't agree with this, because you're going to take my disagreements as hate towards you or your cause, but that's just not the case. And like Dayna said, that's a human thing. Like, we've got to start being more human. And you know, one of my words, like, for the year, is probably going to stay my lifetime type word, is truth and grace. Like, you can give truth, but there has to be grace with the truth that you're giving, because if not, you're just criticizing somebody. You're just constantly criticizing. But at the same time, you can't just be graceful and not give truth, because you're enabling the situation. It's just a humanity thing. I think Dayna hit it with that. We have to be so much more human, because I should be able to say, I don't agree with, you know, your lifestyle or what it is that you're choosing to do, but it doesn't mean that I love you less, or it doesn't mean that you and I can't sit at the table and make a multi-million dollar, you know, business deal or collaboration, because, you know, I got no pride. For me personally, at Brandon, I love you where you're at and love you with what you're doing, but we're never gonna agree on everything. I don't agree with everything my husband says and does, but I still love him. My kids the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think we've gotten so far from that humanity, which gives you pause to talk about even a real thing, not an opinionated thing, and that's tough.
Can I just add to that? I don't know if you had more after that, but I do want to just add, because I feel like, dating myself a bit, my generation, we had in school debate, right? Like, the whole idea of debate was that you learned both sides of an issue so well that you could fight for it as if it was your opinion, right? And now, granted, we're in real life, so these are your actual opinions, right? But what would happen at the end of a debate is you would fight the side, and you would shake hands and you would keep on moving, right? You never, like, then resented that person because they fought a different side or they had a different viewpoint and things like that. And so I will say that it is sad to me that we can have different values, y'all. Like, I can view marriage this way and you can view marriage this way, and you can be like, I ain't interested in marriage at all. And yet we can all have completely different views of what that looks like. But in my house, in your house, in this house, I still love you, right? And I do think, and I will say, there's some extremes going on in one end where you have strong opinions on somebody and then you hate them because they don't agree with you. That's a problem. Because again, whether you have religion, don't have religion, I don't care who you from, when you were born, like, didn't nobody teach you, or they shouldn't have teach you. I guess I shouldn't say they didn't teach you. So I guess there is a lot of people that teach hate. But anyways, fundamentals, I would say hate is not something that we readily accept and say, hey, this is what we should keep passing on, right? That's learned, right? That's over time. We create an enemy or we create a monster out of something, and then we start hating. So I do think that just really, really think about, do I completely have to distance myself because someone doesn't think the way I think or envision the way I envision? Or do we just, and there's times we just don't talk about it at all because we don't agree on it. And we don't want it to turn into something that is controversial between the two of us. But now that's different if you're showing up as a business. That's different if you're showing up as your personal brand. That's a little different if now this is your space, because people opt in or opt out, right? They can choose to follow you, they can silence you, they can unfollow you, they can whatever, because this is your little space to showcase your business and what you do. The other thing that I kind of just a little bit on this topic that I would love to address or talk about, because I think that Andriana had alluded to this a little bit even before we got on, is there are people in businesses, or there are people that might still have jobs, that certain things that they do and show up has to be censored, right? Like, I know for a fact, I was just talking to somebody, they're in finances. So because they're in finances, there's so many legal things that she cannot say, she cannot talk about online or post or things like that, right? So this is different. We're not talking about any of those things that fall into this category of like, you're going to lose your job if you talk about this or the other, or you know what I mean, you're going to lose your licensing by the state because you're hitting on things that, you know, because of your, I can't think of the word, criteria or whatever, you cannot discuss those things. So I did want to just kind of put that out there. That's not what we're talking about here, y'all. That's not what we're talking about. And I do think that it needs to be clear with your team. I think it needs to be clear with whoever you're working with, that, hey, these are our values, because I've also seen times where maybe you have a team and you feel this way, and then they show up and present your company a different way. That's a problem, right? So in the beginning at orientation, in the beginning of your business, or whatever that looks like, it should be very clear what that looks like. This is not acceptable because this is how we feel about inclusion, or this is how we feel about this matter. If this is a problem, then this might not be the job for you, or this might not be the business for you, because we do need people to stand in this light.
I think that's a perfect point to bring up, because I think a lot of times people think Chick-fil-A comes to mind, right? Everybody knows that that is a Christian based at the heart, so they're not open on Sundays. But they took a lot of flack when same-sex marriages came up. But people saw it as this negative thing, but I feel like when we have that honesty and we show in our branding, these are the things that are important. As like Dayna said, if you honor inclusion, you're not going to have somebody come and work for you that's like, I refuse to work with this kind of person, or you know, that kind of person. But if you don't express that, they don't know that that is the culture or that is the norm. So they, you know, they come in, but we see it as like, well, they've said that they're a Christian and now they're the ones in the wrong. They're not banning you because if you come in and you say, I'm an atheist, you can't eat Chick-fil-A. They're just telling you, look, if you come to work for us, you apply for a job, you want to eat on Sunday and it's a big deal for you, that we're probably not the best place for you, because these are the values that we honor. These are the things that we put, you know, up front, you know, the same as Dayna saying inclusion. If you're somebody is saying that we are big on inclusion, we want that to be like a pillar that we stand on, then you know that when a new policy comes down, that it's going to probably fall on that pillar. So there's no surprise, there's no shock, there's no like, where did this come from? Because you know this is what the branding is, or you know this is what that company is about. I think we do just have to stop making it like this personal attack on you and just understand that this is, it's good to know where people stand, right? It's good to know what if your neighbor is, you know, not into Halloween, like, or they don't give their kids candy. If you know this, you're not going to go drop a big bowl of candy off to their family for Halloween, right? I mean, it's your right to be upset that you can't do it, but it's also their right to say, you know, this is not what we do, or, you know, this is what we're asking you not to do. It's the same thing with your business. Like, we as the customers or consumers of somebody else's business has to understand that it's a great thing that somebody is telling you, this is what I value, this is exactly what it is, even if it doesn't align with you, because then you know you're not for me, so I'm going to go over this way and go, you know, go shopping or spend my money or, you know, get that service. It's like a protection. It's kind of like we were talking about procedures with, you know, a network marketing company. This is like a protection for you too, because you don't want to work with somebody who says, I hate people like you. You don't want to be unknowing and all of a sudden, you know, you're in collaboration with somebody that you wouldn't normally work with. I think we just have to really just see, we've made everything so such an attack. if you don't agree 100% with me, then, you're an awful person, and vice versa, when it's just like, there's so many teachable moments in this, in all of it. It's so rough.
Yeah, I agree. I do. Go ahead, Andrea.
I was about to say, I think we have to look at it as preferences. I'm trying to explain this to my son because he's trying to date now, y'all. But everybody has preferences. You prefer to do business over here versus over here. I mean, what Dayna said in the beginning, if your values align with this person, okay, you can do business with them. It's just your preference. Can't get mad at me because I prefer to date dark-skinned chocolate men. I'm sorry. I like men, but I prefer dark men, okay? And that's who I'm with. I got a chocolate man. So if I prefer to do business with this person here, that don't mean that I'm not going to support your business too. I just prefer this. I prefer Target over Walmart. They still in business. They doing good. It's just all about preferences, y'all. Don't be mad at people because they prefer what they prefer.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And the other thing, the biggest thing that I will say again, just to reiterate, is don't be afraid to show up. Don't be afraid to speak just because you feel like you might not say the right thing. I saw a lot of that too, where people are like, well, I didn't know what to say. Or when I tried to start saying something, then it wasn't right. So then I was like, I'm not going to say anything, right? To me, better be very sloppy at it and get a little flack and ask, right? Like, ask people, like, what do you actually need, right? To me, if you know, and even I'm gonna go back to the whole doula thing, right? Like babies are not my niche. So like, it might not make sense for me to talk about these women that are dying in birth and things like that. But I know somebody that it does make sense for, right? And humanity is my thing. And so at the end of the day, it might be a different discussion I need to have to incorporate this because I want awareness around it, right? And so I think sometimes when we're not directly affected by something, then we're like, well, I shouldn't talk about it. It doesn't matter. It's not affecting me, right? Whereas again, when we think of a bigger scope, a humanity thing, there's so many places where you might be able to refer somebody, or you might have more awareness on it, and it kind of changes your view. And to your point where you say your preference is dark-skinned men, okay, but some of these people, their preference is dark-skinned men, but they have never seen any other type of man that exists, right? So then there is a problem, right? So you can't say this is my preference, but you've never been exposed to anything else. So you have no options that you're picking from, right? So again, I just think that collectively, right, we can all do better. And it's a space that we can all kind of acknowledge and look at.
I agree. And I love that. We would love to hear in the comments your thoughts on it. Are you speaking in your truth, as they say, or are you standing in the back and saying, I'm just going to, walk the fence line and hope something sticks later? How are you doing with that? Is it working for you? Does it not work for you? It's hard in the cancel world. I get it. Yeah. We love to hear from you. If you do not catch this live and you need the replay, instead of you scrolling through our socials trying to find it after the 100 posts that go down, make sure you click that YouTube link, subscribe, like, share, do all of the things. We will see you guys next week, same time, same place, 5 Central, 6 Eastern. I've been saying it the other way, but I still got it right. All right, y'all. Take care. See you next week.